Merry Christmas everyone. Today I have a very special video about a very special movie. With that though, huge spoilers for No Way Home. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll go and see it and then come back. And if you have seen it, stay and watch the video. Now that that's taken care of, No Way Home was such an amazing movie. I truly loved it, but I wanted to talk about the characters in the movie, especially the villains. While I loved all the Spider-Man, it feels like they didn't really change. Tobey, Andrew, and Tom all feel exactly how they should, and that might be the best part. Seeing all these Spideys I grew up with interacting was amazing. Obviously, Tom does change a little, but it's his movie, so it makes sense. He adapted and finally got the "with great power comes great responsibility" speech, which did so much for him. I loved how Aunt May's death really affected him, and we got to see that. And while I can sit here and talk about them all day, I do want to talk about the villains. Starting off is I think they did a genius move by bringing all of them from the different movies. This allowed them to brush through their backstories without needing to have a complex story for them in this movie because they already have one. Marvel knew that if they wanted to do a Sinister Six correctly, they needed the villains to be set up beforehand, and luckily, they already had some. Going into all of them, I wanted to start off with Sandman and the Lizard. Obviously, these two had the least amount of screen time. That's not a terrible thing though. First off, the Lizard is one of the simplest characters in any Spider-Man movie. His goal is to turn people into lizards. The problem with that is it's not easy to connect with on an emotional level. So setting him aside kinda works just because out of all these characters, he's almost the least important and least memorable. Next is Sandman. The reason I think he wasn't focused on is because of his motives. All he cares about is his daughter, and he fights Spider-Man so he will stop getting in the way. Also, in Spider-Man 3, he has by far the best story and best moments. He doesn't really need to be focused on because he doesn't care. I do really like him in No Way Home. My friend did complain and ask why would he even fight the spiders, and well, it's simple. He wants the box, and based off of him and his movie, we see how much he trusts people, which is very little, and how fast he goes to violence. Next up is Doc Ock, definitely a fan favorite, and every time he says "Hello Peter," I get a little hard. But he was used so well in this movie. I love how we got to see both sides of him, the true menace of Doc Ock and Otto Octavius, Peter's friend. One of the moments I really like is when he's talking to Tobey. It made me tear up a little, but seeing them together again was so worth it. He definitely was in the movie more just because of his popularity though. While nothing we see from him is exactly new, I think that's perfectly fine. In my opinion, he was utilized perfectly. We all wanted him to fight Peter, so he did. And we all wanted to see him being Otto Octavius again. So yeah, 10 out of 10 across the board. Okay, so I've saved these two for the last, for two very different reasons. Starting with Elektra. He had the best comeback ever. While I like the Amazing Spider-Man 2, Elektra was kinda wasted, especially being played by Jamie Foxx. However, in this movie, he is incredible and almost steals every scene he is in. To be honest, this isn't really Max Dillon in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But I don't think that's a bad thing. We all wanted to see something more along the lines of this in that movie. So changing, I think, was the best move. We got to see him be more funny, more cocky. We got to see the power kind of overwhelm him, and the costume is just amazing. Finally, Green Goblin. I saved him for last because the movie really focused on him. Green Goblin is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains and villains in general, so seeing him again was amazing, especially with Willem Dafoe suiting up for it. The movie does something very interesting though, where we all know Green Goblin will probably be a villain, but we almost don't want him to. It really reminds me of the PS4 game. We grew to like Norman, and seeing him interact and trust Peter is amazing. But it hurts us that much more when he betrays him. The best part in my opinion is just how much he fucks with Peter, like laughing while being punched or blaming him for Aunt May's death. Really thinking about all of the villains made me realize why this movie is so amazing though. Spider-Man villains don't really change that much. No matter how many times Peter helps them or saves them or whatever, they are always his villains. Yeah, sometimes they turn good, but that will never last too long. So seeing all these characters from the different movies almost acting the exact same, and Spider-Man trying to help them no matter what they do, is really special and perfectly encapsulates Spider-Man. This movie is interesting because the entire premise can be solved by a push of the button at any moment. But of course, Spider-Man wouldn't do that because it would lead to death and it would lead to more people getting hurt. At the end of the day, I love this movie and I just want to make a video about it. So thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye!